Hello my friends. Before I begin this video, I'm going to address this because I know some of you are probably going to ask. So my friend Dustin, we went elk tracking yesterday. My friend Dustin told a wonderful story about how this huge bull elk charged our party, and I ran out in front of it and wrestled it down, and I was an incredible hero. But that's not actually how it happened. The truth is, I walked into a tree. So, there you have it. This is an important video because it has a lot of power, transformative power, to change our lives, and on many levels. So this is going to be a little bit deeper of a video, and let's plunge right in. The idea here is that most of us know very, very well how to react to things. And we also know, and we've heard, that if we can learn to respond instead of react, that this is a very, very different way of encountering life. When I react, the externals rule me. They dictate whether I am happy, whether I'm sad, whether I'm frustrated. When I respond, then I recognize this universal truth that the exterior circumstances could almost be seen as neutral in flavor. But they come in, I get to respond to them. I get to put an interpretation on them. And of course, there are probably limits to this. We know, we've seen Buddhist monks that can meditate through being burned alive. Probably none of us are going to be at that level. So there are places where we're going to have our limitations as far as not reacting to those externals, but we can begin the process of shifting that so that more and more of life becomes response-based and less becomes reaction-based. We have a new puppy, as you probably know, so I'm going to be using the example of a puppy because a puppy gives ample opportunities to experience frustration. You're trying to train this animal not to, for instance, chew on things, not to nip at people, not to go to the bathroom inside. And to really train a dog well, you must have immense patience, and you must be response-based. If you're not, you get a dog that is maybe fearful of you, but not excited to please you. So, using the example of the puppy, let's imagine I have a coat. It's a really nice coat. And I left it sitting over there, and I look over, and the puppy is just going to town on that coat, tearing open the sleeve. Ah, stop! Ah, bad dog. Boom, straight into reaction. So that urge to go into reaction is so strong. So strong. Now, that might create an effect. It might scare the dog from, create an aversion from chewing that sleeve of that jacket. But it may not translate into the other sleeve, or chewing the middle of the jacket, or chewing on a shoe, or a mitten, or a hat. So that reaction does not work nearly as well as a response-based, where I would look over, I'd see that happening, and I'd know, okay, here's an opportunity for training. And I'm going to start slow, because we're always starting with a kind of a softer one, and then escalating in our nose. And as soon as the puppy drops it, I'm replacing it with a positive chew toy, something that is okay to chew, and saying, "Good dog." Now I'm starting to teach the dog there are proper things and not proper things. And eventually, using that method, the dog is going to look to us to see, is something okay to chew or not? Figure it out. Having trained a lot of animals before, worked with dogs, had different dogs, I know how this goes. And I know that you can easily have an adult dog that is going to chew things apart. It's still going to go to the bathroom inside. That can have all kinds of behavioral problems. And the reason that happens is because the humans that are doing the training are in reaction rather than in response. But how in the world do I bring myself into response mode? Because we can probably all attest, reaction happens very, very quickly. I look over, I see that thing happening. There's an instant spike. We get very up, very excited, angry in a negative way, and we react. When things are that quick, it can seem to us like it just happens. We have no control over it. But what we might be missing is that there has to be an underlying foundation. There has to be a foundation, a basis, upon which that reaction can launch itself. So you can imagine, if I am invested in, I believe that my jacket is something that should not be chewed apart by a dog, then that's that basis that the reaction can jump off of. Of course, if I thought that my jacket was a chew toy and I'd given it to the dog as a chew toy, I would have removed that foundation. When I look over, I'm not going to have that reaction. So it could be the exact same external stimulus, right? The dog chewing on my jacket. But because I've changed my mind about the jacket, I remove myself from reaction mode. This is very vital to understand, because most of us have an underlying foundation that is a conviction that we know what is best. So we look around at pretty much anything, whether it's going to be political, who's going to be elected, whether it's the weather, whether it's our state of health, whether it's our emotions, whether it's that dog chewing on something, and we think we know what is best. Best for ourselves, best for the world, best for the nation. Dwelling in that sense of conviction, I've given myself a basis. Now, I can launch off of that. I can be reactive. And when I'm reactive, whoa, it's bad for me physiologically because it's stressful, right? It's a disease of civilization here, this chronic stress. And this reaction-based living, it creates chronic stress because I'm always looking around to see if everything is lined up as it should be. And if it isn't, I'm going to stress about it. I'm going to react. If we can shift our basis, if we can remove ourselves from the conviction that we know what is best, something almost miraculous happens. And it happens on two levels. First of all, we're not reacting. We've taken away that foundation upon which it can launch itself. So I look out, I do not know what is best. I've removed that stress, that reaction from my life. Now this is very good for me, physiologically. I'm not under stress anymore. And paradoxically, we find that we are better able to change the things that we would have been stressed about before. And that's where the surrendering of our conviction, there's a part of us that says, no, we can't surrender our conviction, because then we won't be trying to make positive change in our lives, or we won't be trying to uphold our lives. Our lives will crumble and fall around us. That's that little part of our brain, that fearful part of our brain, that really is control-based. And it wants to say, if I'm not here guiding things, life will be in shambles. But it's not true. It's not true because we still can have a desire for things to look a certain way, but if I hold to that desire without the conviction, without really believing that I know that if that happens, that's going to be the best possible outcome, then this paradox gets invoked. And I find that when I'm not reacting, I can respond. So I can look at that situation and I can say, oh, okay, I would like the dog not to be chewing on my jacket, and I'm going to use some training to do that. And what I'm doing is I'm creating a long-term benefit, where in a month or 2 months, the dog is not going to be chewing anymore. And I'm going to be saved a lot of misery that would have occurred if I had been reacting every time that dog destroyed the mittens and the hat and the jacket. To release this conviction, I have to look at everything in my life. And you don't have to do it one by one. You can just step back and do this using that old Zen story. I'll try to link to it here. Who knows what is good or bad? Because the dog might chew up that jacket. It's my favorite jacket. I love it. But that might mean that tomorrow I go to the thrift store and I find a jacket that is going to serve me way, way better than that one that I thought was the best. And this holds for everything in life. We might think that to have a certain person elected is going to destroy the country and be the absolute worst thing that could happen. Yet, that person may be elected and it might start a movement or a shift in consciousness that leads to exactly what we were hoping for. Exactly the good things that we were shooting for, that we thought we had to control. In human relationships, this is huge. Often because we have a very strong conviction that we know what is right for them. And we want them to look more like us, to strengthen our own ego. If we can look at other people and we can realize, all right, is my life 100% perfect and I'm happy 100% of the time and it's just totally, completely awesome? Unless I can say that honestly, then maybe I don't actually know what's best even for myself, let alone for another person in the circumstances of life that they're facing. So what if I can release that? And I can say, okay, I think this person's life might be better if they accepted my religion, if they ate a better diet, if they dressed differently, whatever it is. But do I really know that? And that's where that conviction can be released. And again, we'll see it's going to play out very differently. If I'm reacting to that person, I'm saying, your diet is crap. You are going to be just diabetic within 3 months. There's an ego defense that's going to go up. They're going to be feeling angry with me because I'm attacking them. Very, very different than if I can respond. I can look and I can say, okay, I think their diet would be better if they ate more vegetables. But I'm not a complete expert at this, and I don't know their genetics and their bioflora, and so I'm not 100% sure on this. Then I can go in with a different attitude, and I can say, hey, you've been saying that you aren't feeling really, really well lately. And I know for me, there was a time when I wasn't feeling very well. I shifted my diet, and it made some huge changes. Would you be interested in hearing about what I did? And there they might say yes. If we can undo this conviction, and I know it's scary, and I know that part of your brain might be firing right now saying, you cannot release convictions, you must be strong in your convictions. But if we can release those, we open up our minds to new information. We open up our minds to taking in, for instance, the look on their face as I start talking with them about food. Right away I see, even though I'm trying to be nice, there's an ego defense going up. It's not the time to talk about it. It's powerful stuff. But it takes a huge shift of paradigm. We have to admit that we do not know best. And for our ego selves, that is difficult. That's really difficult. But if we do it, the world opens up. We become ever students, always learning more, always taking in. We become receptive to other people, other ideas. We become receptive, if you're religious, we become receptive to the divine when we're open like that. When we're locked into conviction, we only see our convictions. We only see this idea in our heads. This has been a very, very powerful one for me. And I keep seeing different levels or layers of it. The puppy, as I have mentioned, has been a great, great teacher. As I start to see where it is that I'm still holding on to that idea that I know what is best. The more you play with that and undermine it, the better. And again, hit that little link at the end here if you want, and check out that other video on that Zen story, because it really challenges our idea and gives a great little example of, do we really know what's best? Something can seem very negative, but it may be very positive. Share any thoughts that you have on this. Have you tried releasing your conviction that you know what's best? Have you noticed the changes that it makes in your life? How do you respond rather than react? Love to you all. Can't wait to see what you have to say.